A seasoned flight attendant with over a decade of experience thought she was untouchable, ruling the first-class cabin with authority, deciding who deserved respect and who didn't. But in just one moment, one small act of arrogance, she made a mistake she would regret forever. When a woman in seat 1A, a passenger she assumed didn't belong, asked for a simple cup of water, she dismissed her without a second thought. What she didn't realize was that she had just disrespected the most powerful person on the plane. 7 minutes later, everything changed. A single message was sent, a silent ripple that would grow into a tidal wave, and by the time the plane landed, her entire career was over. But what happened next shocked everyone, setting off a chain of events no one saw coming. Stay with me, this is a story you need to hear. Before we dive in, comment below and let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you find this story impactful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Naomi Carter settled comfortably into the soft embrace of her plush first-class seat, feeling the gentle hum of the engines as the airplane taxied toward the runway, a familiar symphony that whispered of new opportunities and limitless possibilities ahead, like the gentle rustle of pages in a book waiting to be written. Life, Naomi believed, was just that, an unfolding story, filled with chapters of joy, struggle, and quiet triumphs where every moment, no matter how ordinary it seemed, carried within it the power to change everything. She adjusted her silk scarf, the smooth fabric gliding between her fingertips, a small pleasure that reminded her how the simplest things often held the deepest joys. She knew from years of traveling and living that every choice she made, even something as mundane as asking for a cup of water, carried significance, rippling outward, shaping lives in unexpected ways. Nearby, Melissa Crane strode confidently down the aisle, her uniform immaculate, posture impeccable, wearing her authority like armor, unaware that her next choice would define far more than just a routine flight. Naomi observed her with quiet curiosity, recognizing immediately the telltale signs of someone who believed authority lay in status rather than respect. It was something she'd seen countless times. People who mistakenly thought control came from their titles, rather than from the quiet strength of kindness and understanding. She didn't let it bother her, having learned long ago that genuine power rested not in the privileges you demanded, but in the humility and grace with which you treated others, lessons woven deeply into the fabric of her life. And so, when Melissa stopped at her seat, dismissing her simple request for water, Naomi chose not to react with anger nor frustration. She chose instead the path of patience, of calmness, of deliberate stillness, knowing deeply that sometimes the most powerful response was simply silence, giving the other person space to realize their mistake. Naomi gently tapped her phone, sending a quiet message, a ripple that would soon become a wave, and relaxed back into her seat, contemplating how often in life people overlooked the extraordinary within the ordinary moments. To her, life at this age, at 65 and beyond, had taught her that each seemingly minor interaction could reveal profound truths about character, kindness, and personal integrity. Melissa's dismissive glance, her terse tone, were reminders that many still struggled to understand the quiet, yet undeniable power of respect, of value Naomi had spent decades fostering within herself and the companies she built. Reflecting on her own journey, Naomi thought warmly of the small towns she had visited, of conversations with ordinary people that had shaped her more deeply than meetings in boardrooms ever could, like the elderly gentleman she once met in a small diner in Ohio, who shared his life's wisdom over a cup of coffee, reminding her, "How you treat someone who can offer you nothing is exactly who you are." His words echoed within her now, encouraging her to remain true to her values, no matter the circumstance. She watched as a younger attendant, Claire, stepped quietly forward, offering her the water she had politely requested. Naomi accepted it with a nod of appreciation, recognizing the simple bravery and kindness in Claire's action, a small yet courageous act of respect that shone brighter than any grand gesture. In Naomi's eyes, life wasn't defined by grandiose moments of fame or wealth, but rather by these small, humble choices that demonstrated character, kindness, and quiet courage. At 30,000 feet above the earth, hurtling gently through the clouds, Naomi understood profoundly that it was never too late, never beyond reach, to redefine oneself through acts of grace and wisdom, setting into motion waves of change. She hoped Melissa might yet learn this invaluable truth that real authority comes from respect freely given, not demanded. That life, especially in its later chapters, was infinitely richer when shaped by kindness and generosity. Naomi sipped her water slowly, savoring the cool, pure simplicity of it, reminding herself and anyone wise enough to listen that life was not measured by how many rules you enforced, nor how many people feared you, but by how gently and respectfully you treated the souls whose paths crossed your own. Naomi's gentle yet powerful presence had a way of illuminating truths that often remained hidden beneath life's clutter, like an early morning sun softly dissolving mist from a sleepy meadow, quietly revealing pathways that were always there but seldom seen, paths of wisdom, humility, and deep human kindness. And while Naomi relaxed into the rhythm of the flight, savoring the simple clarity of the cool water Claire had offered, Melissa stood quietly in the galley, a heavy feeling pressing upon her chest, a sensation familiar to anyone who has ever suddenly recognized that their life was at a crossroads. Their story balanced delicately between the comfortable but flawed past and the daunting yet promising possibility of change. Melissa's reflection in the polished metal surface of the galley cabinet stared back at her, a blurred silhouette of a woman who had, for years, wrapped herself tightly in the security of authority and control, believing mistakenly that power meant enforcing strictness rather than cultivating respect and warmth. Her image now felt incomplete, much like a puzzle missing crucial pieces. There, amidst the hum of airplane engines and the muffled whispers of curious passengers, Melissa felt a quiet tug within, an inner voice calling her softly to question not just her actions toward Naomi, but also the countless similar moments she might have overlooked throughout her career. It was, she realized, a profound and rare chance to pivot toward growth, to redefine herself not by the rigid rules she upheld, but by the compassionate human connections she could nurture. The kind of transformative opportunity life occasionally grants to each of us, especially when we least expect it, urging us gently forward into richer and more meaningful chapters. She recalled vividly an older passenger she'd encountered several years ago, a soft-spoken woman in her 70s named Eleanor, traveling alone on a flight to visit grandchildren she rarely saw, her gentle voice barely audible when requesting assistance, yet profoundly grateful even for simple kindnesses: a warm blanket, help with her luggage, an extra smile of reassurance. Small gestures Melissa had once freely offered early in her career, but gradually set aside in pursuit of efficiency and professional detachment. Remembering Eleanor's appreciative eyes and heartfelt gratitude now brought Melissa a wave of quiet regret, a poignant reminder of how easily small kindnesses slip away when we prioritize rules over relationships, tasks over tenderness. Melissa felt suddenly compelled by an idea, simple yet transformative, a practical step forward she could take immediately, inspired by Eleanor's gentle spirit and Naomi's dignified calmness. From this moment onward, she would approach each interaction, each passenger, each colleague not as a task to manage or a policy to enforce, but as a human being with stories and struggles uniquely their own, deserving empathy and genuine respect. To ground this newfound commitment in reality, Melissa resolved to consciously apply a powerful yet simple practice each day. She would choose one person, perhaps someone who appeared overlooked or uncertain, and offer them a small act of genuine kindness without expectation of return. Helping an elderly passenger navigate an unfamiliar airport, warmly greeting a nervous traveler, or simply asking a colleague sincerely how they were feeling that day. This intentional daily action, Melissa understood, would not merely be symbolic. It would gradually reshape her entire approach to life, helping her break free from old patterns of judgment and authority, moving instead toward deeper, richer connections that would inevitably enrich not just her passengers' lives but her own. Her heart felt lighter as she made this silent promise to herself, realizing she didn't need grand gestures or dramatic transformations to become the better version of herself she secretly wished to be. She simply needed consistent, small steps rooted in genuine compassion and mindful awareness. At that moment, Claire approached quietly, a gentle look in her eyes that seemed to sense Melissa's internal shift. Melissa turned, meeting Claire's gaze warmly for the first time, quietly recognizing the younger woman's courage and humility, qualities she had perhaps overlooked before, blinded by her own insistence on authority. Without needing to say much, Melissa softly nodded, silently acknowledging her own mistake and Claire's quiet strength, knowing deep down that meaningful growth begins when we openly acknowledge the wisdom and bravery in those around us, especially those we've underestimated or dismissed. Naomi, meanwhile, seated comfortably by the window, observed the shifting sky outside, where clouds gathered gently like memories floating together, forming patterns she recognized from decades of rich experience. At 65, Naomi had learned to see such moments of tension or discomfort not as setbacks, but as fertile ground for deeper understanding and quiet transformation. Experiences that, when embraced with humility and patience, could teach profound truths about empathy, character, and the often overlooked power of small, intentional acts of kindness. She had lived enough life to know that lasting change rarely came from grand declarations or dramatic gestures, but rather from daily, purposeful choices that quietly yet steadily built a legacy of respect and compassion, transforming not just ourselves, but everyone we encountered. And as Naomi relaxed, her breathing gentle and steady, she thought warmly about Melissa, hopeful, patient, knowing from personal experience that every person, no matter how distant or lost they may seem, carries within them the seeds of remarkable change, capable of blossoming beautifully when nurtured by genuine kindness and understanding. In this quiet moment at 30,000 feet, a powerful truth emerged clearly. None of us are ever truly defined by a single mistake or lapse in judgment, but rather by how courageously and humbly we choose to respond, to heal, and ultimately to grow from those very moments, embracing life's continual invitation to begin again. As Naomi gazed thoughtfully out the airplane window, watching the shifting tapestry of clouds drift effortlessly by, she reflected gently upon the hidden wisdom that life so generously offers when we take the time to truly listen. Wisdom often disguised within our daily interactions, quietly waiting like an unopened letter, patient and profound, until we finally choose to unfold it. From decades of experience, Naomi understood deeply that genuine power never comes from a title, nor from rules written in handbooks or etched onto plaques in elegant office lobbies, but rather from the compassionate understanding and respect we consistently choose to show those around us, especially in moments when kindness isn't required but offered freely. Life, she knew, gently invites each of us, at any age and perhaps especially beyond 65, to see ourselves not merely as recipients of wisdom, but as active shapers of it. Our everyday interactions becoming living classrooms where kindness, humility, and thoughtful respect are the most profound lessons we can impart. Naomi remembered vividly an afternoon spent in a quiet cafe in Boston, where a retired teacher named Martha had shared her own powerful story of transformation. Martha had spent a lifetime in a structured environment, guiding generations through lessons in mathematics and literature, only to realize in retirement that her greatest gift was not merely the content she taught, but the way she chose to see her students as whole, unique human beings. Martha had told Naomi something unforgettable that day, something that resonated deeply now as she considered Melissa's earlier interaction. When we truly see people, when we pause and acknowledge their inherent dignity, that is when we teach the most powerful lessons of all. Inspired by Martha's wisdom, Naomi considered how she might gently yet meaningfully extend this lesson to Melissa, not through reprimand or authority, but through compassionately modeling the quiet strength of respect. This, she believed, was perhaps the most impactful legacy we could offer to anyone, especially those who had not yet fully grasped the power hidden within simple human kindness. Meanwhile, Melissa, standing quietly near the galley, felt an unfamiliar stirring within herself, a subtle yet persistent invitation towards self-awareness, nudging her gently toward a new, humbler understanding of leadership. This moment, she realized, was not merely about correcting an isolated mistake or smoothing over an awkward interaction. It was a powerful opportunity to rewrite the script she had been living for years. Melissa thought vividly about her life, recalling countless flights, airports, and passengers she had encountered, hundreds of brief encounters that, until now, she had viewed as mere transactions rather than meaningful human interactions. Yet, Naomi's calm dignity and Claire's quiet bravery had sparked something profound within her, prompting her to reconsider what it truly meant to lead and inspire, especially at a point in her career when it was easy to rely on status rather than sincerity. Inspired by these reflections, Melissa resolved quietly but firmly to begin adopting a transformative yet straightforward daily habit, one rooted deeply in practical kindness. She decided that each morning, starting tomorrow, she would choose to deliberately acknowledge at least 3 individuals with genuine warmth and respect, whether they were passengers, colleagues, or strangers encountered during layovers. Melissa would greet each person by name whenever possible, offering sincere compliments or words of appreciation not out of obligation, but from a heartfelt desire to connect authentically. And each evening, she would take a quiet moment to reflect gently on these interactions, allowing herself to truly absorb the positive changes her kindness had sparked. It was, Melissa knew, a simple yet profound practice, an accessible, actionable step anyone at any age, especially in later chapters of life, could embrace to actively create meaningful ripples of kindness and empathy. Naomi, sensing this subtle transformation occurring nearby, felt deeply encouraged, knowing from her own rich life experience that genuine change often began quietly, in humble acts of self-awareness, courage, and intentional kindness. She believed wholeheartedly that each person carried within themselves an infinite capacity for growth and goodness, especially if offered gentle support rather than harsh judgment. A truth she had learned not only from years spent in corporate boardrooms, but also from quiet conversations shared over kitchen tables with friends who had bravely chosen to reinvent themselves, even at ages when others might have stopped believing in new beginnings. Naomi recalled warmly her dear friend Robert, who at age 72 had courageously begun volunteering at a local senior center, offering his listening ear and warm companionship to others, transforming countless lives, including his own, through simple acts of sincere compassion and humility. Robert's example reminded Naomi powerfully, and now Melissa as well, that it is never too late, nor too complicated, to become the kind of person whose very presence inspires and uplifts those around them. As the airplane continued gently soaring above the clouds, Naomi silently hoped that Melissa would discover for herself this simple yet profound truth, that every interaction we have, no matter how ordinary it might seem, carries within it the power to shape lives profoundly, especially when we choose consciously and consistently to act from a place of genuine empathy, respect, and kindness. Naomi knew deeply, from the gentle guidance of her own rich and varied life, that the greatest legacy any of us can leave behind isn't found in awards or achievements, but rather in the quiet, lasting imprint we leave upon the hearts of others through consistent, intentional acts of love and respect. And as she closed her eyes, a gentle smile on her lips, Naomi felt comforted by the understanding that each day, each moment offers every one of us, no matter our age, a fresh opportunity to choose kindness, humility, and love, rewriting our own story, one small, powerful action at a time. High above the gentle patchwork landscape of fields and rivers unfolding beneath the airplane, Melissa found herself standing quietly before the cockpit door, her pulse quickening like the rhythmic ticking of an old clock whose chimes awaken us gently yet firmly to moments of truth. This wasn't simply a routine meeting with the captain, it was an invitation, perhaps long overdue, for Melissa to confront herself, her beliefs, and her actions, illuminated now by Naomi's quiet dignity and Claire's courageous kindness. She took a slow, deliberate breath, feeling a quiet resolve settle within her, the kind of strength we discover unexpectedly when life nudges us gently yet insistently to grow. Captain Hayes' voice, calm yet serious, welcomed her inside, inviting Melissa to sit down and share her perspective. Melissa hesitated briefly, recognizing this moment as more than a conversation. It was an opportunity to choose vulnerability over defensiveness, honesty over justification, and humility over pride. As she settled into the jump seat, memories gently flowed through her mind like a river whose currents carried both regrets and hope. She thought vividly of her grandfather, a wise man named Henry, who had once guided her through life's uncertainties with a single simple phrase: "When life challenges you, Melissa, let your first step be inward, toward self-reflection. Your second step outward, toward humility. And your third step forward, toward meaningful change." She had forgotten his words over the years, caught in routines and the false security of rules and power, but now, in this small cockpit high above the earth, she embraced them once again, understanding that her grandfather's wisdom was timeless, practical, and beautifully actionable for anyone facing a crossroads, especially in the later, wiser chapters of life. Melissa spoke slowly, sharing her experience openly, her words gently unraveling layers of pride and defensiveness, allowing vulnerability to shine through clearly, like sunlight through clouds after a storm. She acknowledged to Captain Hayes that she had, indeed, misunderstood Naomi, had mistakenly chosen rules over compassion, and had let judgment overshadow kindness. More importantly, Melissa confessed with quiet sincerity that this realization had awakened something profound within her, a recognition that leadership wasn't about strict adherence to protocol, but about consistently offering genuine respect, empathy, and kindness. As Melissa spoke, her words became practical tools anyone might use, especially those seasoned by life's experience, to create powerful, lasting change in their own interactions. First, by acknowledging honestly where they may have fallen short. Second, by intentionally choosing to respond differently, rooted in compassion. And third, by committing daily to acts of genuine kindness toward others, especially those they might have previously overlooked or underestimated. Captain Hayes listened thoughtfully, recognizing Melissa's courage, knowing that true growth often begins precisely this way, quietly, gently, yet unmistakably. He shared briefly with Melissa a powerful story from his own life about a moment, years before, when a passenger's quiet kindness had profoundly changed him, inspiring him to become a gentler, more compassionate leader. The captain encouraged Melissa to keep her newfound awareness alive by regularly reflecting upon the simple yet powerful question he himself asked each day. How might I use my words and actions today to show compassion, dignity, and respect toward others? This clear, actionable habit, he explained warmly, had quietly transformed his interactions, both personally and professionally, reminding him daily that leadership wasn't about authority, but about authentically caring for those entrusted to him. Melissa nodded slowly, absorbing his wisdom, feeling her own perspective gently shift, guided by his example. She quietly committed herself in that very moment to begin each morning with a practical, achievable goal. Consciously choosing 3 opportunities throughout the day to uplift, respect, or sincerely thank someone whose contributions might otherwise go unnoticed, a habit easily adaptable to any daily routine, no matter one's age or experience, creating meaningful ripples of positivity that would extend far beyond her immediate interactions. As she stepped from the cockpit, Melissa felt lighter, more hopeful, recognizing deeply that life continually offered each of us, regardless of past mistakes, a fresh invitation to grow, to improve, and to become kinder, wiser versions of ourselves. She quietly made her way back toward the galley, noticing Claire standing nearby, and paused gently beside her, offering a genuine, appreciative smile, a simple yet profoundly meaningful action that carried within it a silent promise to begin anew, to acknowledge and value Claire's courage openly from this day forward. Naomi, quietly observing from her seat, sensed intuitively the subtle yet profound change occurring. Her heart gently warmed by Melissa's courage and vulnerability qualities. Naomi herself deeply valued and consistently encouraged in others. She understood clearly from her own rich life experience that moments like these quiet, seemingly small exchanges carried enormous power to shape the course of our lives, particularly when we chose intentionally to learn from them, to embrace humility, and to respond with genuine kindness and respect. Naomi smiled softly, recalling a simple yet beautiful truth shared by her late husband, George, many years before. The greatest journey we ever take is the one inward, toward recognizing our own potential to grow and to love. Inspired by that memory, Naomi gently decided to reinforce this wisdom in her own daily practice, a habit she believed deeply in sharing with others, especially those navigating the quieter, yet profoundly meaningful later chapters of life. She resolved to continue actively encouraging those around her, including Melissa, if given the opportunity, to regularly reflect upon their interactions, to consciously choose humility and kindness, and to actively acknowledge the inherent dignity within each person they encountered, recognizing this intentional daily habit as a powerful, practical legacy any person, at any age, could cultivate. As the airplane gently descended toward its destination, Melissa, Naomi, and even Claire felt quietly connected, each subtly changed by simple yet profoundly powerful choices made high above the clouds, inspired to begin anew, knowing with certainty that it was never too late nor too difficult to transform ourselves through genuine humility, intentional kindness, and quiet yet powerful actions rooted in respect and empathy. As the aircraft gently began its graceful descent toward the familiar tapestry of city lights and winding roads below, Melissa felt her heart quicken, not from fear, but from a newfound clarity born from deep reflection, a clarity that often comes to us gently yet unmistakably in life's quiet crossroads, whispering that it's never too late to shift course, to learn, and to grow wiser through humility and intentional action. Standing quietly near the galley, Melissa softly closed her eyes, breathing deeply, grounding herself in this transformative moment, just as she remembered her grandmother Eleanor had done many years ago when faced with her own pivotal decisions, teaching Melissa gently that the simplest act, pausing briefly to reconnect with ourselves, could profoundly shape the direction of our lives, no matter our age or circumstance. Inspired by this memory, Melissa consciously adopted this practical habit in her life from this day forward. Each time she felt uncertain or challenged, she would pause intentionally, even for just 30 seconds, breathing deeply, reconnecting gently to her core values of respect, compassion, and humility, allowing clarity and wisdom to guide her actions rather than impulse or defensiveness, a powerful yet accessible practice anyone could embrace, especially in moments when emotions threatened to overpower reason. With quiet courage now steadying her heart, Melissa gently stepped back into the cabin, moving deliberately toward Naomi's seat, her journey down the aisle feeling symbolic, a walk toward humility, vulnerability, and sincere reconciliation. She reminded herself, gently yet firmly, that meaningful apologies weren't merely words offered hastily, but rather courageous acknowledgments paired with thoughtful, purposeful action, small gestures that anyone, at any stage of life, could practice to restore harmony and rebuild trust. Naomi, sensing Melissa's approach, turned gently toward her with a patient, encouraging expression, silently communicating openness, a subtle yet profound reminder of how meaningful it is to offer others space to grow, especially when they've faltered. Melissa quietly knelt beside Naomi's seat, speaking softly yet clearly, expressing genuine regret not just for her earlier mistake, but also openly acknowledging the deeper realization it had sparked within her. The understanding that true leadership and genuine respect come from seeing the dignity inherent in every individual we encounter. Melissa sincerely shared with Naomi the practical commitments she had now adopted: daily acts of kindness, intentional moments of reflection, consciously seeking opportunities to uplift others, inspired by Naomi's quiet dignity and Claire's compassionate courage. Naomi listened warmly, recognizing in Melissa the powerful transformation that humility and intentional action can inspire, particularly in moments when life gently invites us toward deeper self-awareness and change. Naomi quietly offered Melissa words of gentle wisdom born from her own decades of experience, practical, actionable guidance that resonated deeply. Each evening, Naomi suggested warmly, take 5 minutes to reflect gently on your day and ask yourself a single powerful question: whose life did I touch positively today through genuine respect and kindness? Naomi explained that this simple yet profoundly effective practice could empower anyone, particularly those in their later, wiser years, to consciously shape a legacy rooted in empathy and human dignity, reminding Melissa, and indeed all of us, that it's never too late nor too difficult to live meaningfully and purposefully through daily intentional acts of kindness. Melissa absorbed Naomi's wisdom gratefully, quietly promising herself to incorporate this practical reflection habit into her nightly routine, knowing deeply now that lasting change wasn't about grand gestures, but about consistent, intentional actions practiced daily. Inspired further, Melissa resolved that upon landing, she would immediately begin demonstrating her sincerity through simple, achievable gestures, warmly greeting passengers by name, assisting those who needed help with luggage, genuinely thanking her colleagues, actions easily adopted by anyone seeking to rebuild trust or deepen human connection. Meanwhile, Claire stood quietly nearby, witnessing this gentle yet profound exchange, inspired herself by Melissa's humility and Naomi's grace, both women demonstrating beautifully the practical power of forgiveness, courage, and genuine human connection. Claire silently committed herself anew to daily acts of quiet bravery, choosing regularly to speak up gently yet firmly whenever kindness was overlooked or respect forgotten, recognizing clearly that each small courageous action contributed powerfully toward building more compassionate, respectful environments wherever she went. As the wheels of the aircraft gently touched down, carrying them safely home, Melissa felt within her a comforting certainty that she had begun a new chapter, one she was writing intentionally through daily, practical kindness and sincere humility. Naomi felt deeply encouraged, knowing her quiet wisdom had gently inspired meaningful transformation, reminding herself that at any age, especially beyond 65, our greatest contributions often come simply from being present, compassionate mentors who model kindness consistently. Claire, too, recognized with quiet clarity that courageous acts, however small, carried powerful potential to inspire meaningful change. And as passengers quietly began gathering their belongings, readying themselves to return to daily life, Melissa, Naomi, and Claire each understood profoundly that life, at every age and stage, continually invites us toward gentle yet powerful opportunities to heal, to grow, and to become better, kinder versions of ourselves, one small, intentional action at a time. As the airplane's wheels rolled gently along the runway, bringing the passengers safely back to solid ground, Melissa quietly felt her heart settle into a calm rhythm of clarity and purpose, much like the gentle waves of a lake after a storm, finally finding serenity after turbulence. She stood thoughtfully at the cabin's threshold, preparing herself not merely to disembark from the flight, but to step intentionally into a new chapter of her life, one carefully crafted through mindful actions of kindness, respect, and humility. Melissa now understood profoundly that real transformation, especially in our later years, wasn't born from grand declarations or elaborate plans, but rather from practical, everyday choices deliberately made with thoughtful sincerity. She vividly recalled a dear friend named Helen, who at 70 years old had gently reshaped her own life simply by choosing each day to perform a single deliberate act of kindness for a stranger, no matter how small. Helen would thoughtfully pay for a stranger's coffee, help an elderly neighbor with their groceries, or simply offer a heartfelt compliment to someone who appeared weary or discouraged. Practical, achievable actions anyone at any age could easily adopt, yet powerful enough to deeply enrich lives, including her own. Inspired by Helen's example, Melissa softly resolved to implement a similar daily practice in her own routine, beginning today, by consciously choosing 3 specific individuals she would meaningfully acknowledge with warmth, appreciation, or assistance, perhaps thanking a baggage handler sincerely by name, warmly complimenting a colleague's efforts, or gently helping an older passenger navigate the crowded airport. Actions achievable by anyone, especially those seeking deeper purpose, richer connections, and greater joy in everyday life. As passengers rose quietly from their seats, gathering belongings, Melissa deliberately began practicing her new habit immediately, greeting each person warmly, sincerely thanking them for flying, quietly noticing how each intentional act softened her interactions and opened conversations, creating immediate, tangible shifts toward kindness and connection. Naomi, calmly gathering her things, watched Melissa's gentle transformation unfold with quiet admiration, knowing from her own decades of wisdom that true, lasting change always began precisely this way, through quiet, practical acts of intentionality rather than dramatic gestures. Naomi warmly recalled an elderly neighbor named Margaret, who at 82 had taught Naomi a beautifully simple yet profoundly practical habit. Each morning upon waking, Margaret asked herself 2 clear, actionable questions. Who can I help today? And who can I thank? Margaret's deliberate practice had gently transformed not only her own life but also positively touched countless others, an empowering, accessible habit Naomi herself had adopted and now gently encouraged Melissa, Claire, and anyone listening to practice daily, especially beyond the age of 65, when wisdom, gratitude, and generosity hold profound meaning and impact. Melissa felt deeply grateful as she warmly bid farewell to Naomi, quietly promising herself to incorporate Margaret's practical habit of intentional questioning into her morning routine, recognizing clearly its power to shape each day toward meaningful kindness. Claire, standing nearby, felt quietly inspired by the tangible shift unfolding, reaffirming her own commitment to courageous kindness by actively choosing to uplift or support someone overlooked each day, perhaps offering assistance to an elderly neighbor, volunteering quietly at a local center, or simply acknowledging sincerely the efforts of a colleague. Achievable, practical actions that profoundly enriched lives and communities. Stepping into the busy terminal, Melissa deliberately sought out opportunities to practice her newfound commitments, pausing briefly yet intentionally before interacting, quietly reminding herself of the powerful truth Naomi and Margaret embodied, that each person we encounter carries inherent dignity worthy of our respect, appreciation, and kindness. and that even the simplest gesture of genuine acknowledgement could profoundly alter someone's day or even life. She warmly thanked a young attendant holding open a heavy door, gently offered assistance to an older woman navigating the crowded space, and sincerely complimented a custodian on their diligent efforts. Small, thoughtful actions, easily incorporated by anyone seeking deeper purpose or genuine connections, yet each powerful enough to ripple outward, inspiring others toward kindness. Naomi, moving quietly through the terminal herself, felt deeply comforted knowing her gentle presence had inspired meaningful change, reminding herself and others that it's never too late nor too complicated to intentionally choose humility, empathy, and respect each day, understanding that these values weren't abstract ideals, but actionable daily practices everyone, particularly those over 65, could easily embrace. Claire, too, walking thoughtfully toward the baggage claim, silently committed herself anew to daily acts of quiet bravery, intentionally choosing opportunities to uplift, empower, or respectfully advocate for others, especially those whose voices were seldom heard, recognizing clearly that each courageous act of kindness contributed profoundly toward a gentler, more compassionate world. As Melissa stepped outside into the refreshing, cool evening air, she paused intentionally, breathing deeply, savoring the clarity that now gently filled her heart, a clarity born not from having all the answers, but from courageously embracing practical steps toward kindness and humility. She quietly acknowledged to herself and to all those who, at any age, find themselves standing gently at crossroads that the most meaningful journeys we undertake begin not with grand gestures, but with humble, practical choices deliberately made each day to respect, appreciate, and care genuinely for those around us. Melissa, Naomi, and Claire, each deeply inspired, walked gently forward into their evening, knowing clearly and profoundly that each day, each interaction, and each simple action presented quiet yet extraordinary opportunities to create lives of profound meaning, dignity, and joy, opportunities waiting patiently and lovingly for all of us, no matter our age, whenever we choose consciously and intentionally to embrace them. Stepping gently from the bustling airport terminal into the cool, comforting embrace of evening air, Melissa paused thoughtfully beneath the soft glow of streetlights, feeling a quiet, empowering shift within herself, like an old, cherished book gently opening to a fresh chapter, ready to be filled intentionally with kindness, humility, and newfound purpose. She stood still for a moment, breathing deeply, savoring the crisp clarity of the night, and reminding herself warmly of a simple yet profound truth she'd heard decades ago from her father, Samuel, whose wisdom always carried practical encouragement. Every ending, no matter how challenging, is simply an invitation to begin again, wiser and gentler than before. Inspired by her father's comforting words, Melissa consciously decided to mark this evening not as a moment of regret or loss, but as a gentle invitation toward deliberate, meaningful action. She recalled vividly an elderly mentor named Margaret, who at 78, after retiring from a long career, had intentionally embraced daily, practical acts of kindness to build meaningful connections, transforming her retirement into a profoundly joyful and purposeful period of her life. Margaret would quietly write handwritten notes of encouragement, volunteer regularly at her community center, or warmly offer assistance to neighbors in need, small yet powerful actions anyone could adopt at any stage, especially beyond 65, creating extraordinary ripples of kindness and meaning. Melissa softly resolved to begin immediately practicing Margaret's empowering example in her own life, starting tonight, by intentionally expressing sincere appreciation to those closest to her, actions both practical and achievable, yet capable of profoundly enriching relationships. She pulled out her phone thoughtfully, sending warm messages of gratitude to colleagues she may have overlooked, writing sincerely to Claire to thank her for the gentle bravery she had quietly demonstrated on board the flight, and warmly reaching out to Naomi, expressing deep appreciation for her wisdom, kindness, and patient guidance. Naomi, now seated comfortably in a quiet cafe not far from the airport, read Melissa's thoughtful message with gentle satisfaction, knowing clearly from her decades of life experience that authentic transformation often began precisely this way, with quiet, practical acts of gratitude and humility. Naomi remembered fondly an elderly woman named Esther, who at 82 had shared with her a beautifully simple, practical daily habit. Each evening, Esther advised warmly, Take 5 quiet minutes and think intentionally about someone you appreciate deeply, then tell them, sincerely, through a short note or heartfelt conversation, exactly why they matter to you. Naomi had faithfully adopted Esther's habit, recognizing its immense practicality, especially as a way for anyone, particularly those later in life, to foster richer connections, lasting fulfillment, and profound joy through simple, daily gestures of gratitude. Inspired anew by Esther's example and Melissa's message, Naomi gently recommitted herself to this powerful practice, warmly deciding that tonight she would deliberately reach out to her friend Claire, sharing openly how her quiet bravery and humility had inspired and encouraged others. Claire, having just arrived home and reflecting gently upon her day, felt a quiet warmth within herself, intuitively sensing that the courageous kindness she'd chosen to practice had deeply touched lives, recognizing that simple, intentional actions, no matter one's age, carried extraordinary power. Claire recalled warmly her grandmother Ruth's favorite advice. Never underestimate the simple gift of a kind word or thoughtful gesture. Small daily actions, intentionally offered with love, are always enough to change someone's day, or even their life. Motivated by Ruth's timeless wisdom, Claire decided to intentionally integrate this practical habit deeply into her daily routine, beginning tonight by warmly expressing sincere appreciation to Melissa and Naomi, choosing deliberately to nurture these newfound connections through gentle, authentic gratitude. Melissa, reading Claire's heartfelt response later that evening, felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, recognizing clearly now that each practical action she intentionally took toward kindness was weaving a deeper, richer tapestry of relationships and meaning into her life. Encouraged profoundly, Melissa committed herself warmly to expanding these intentional daily practices, resolving that tomorrow she would begin actively volunteering her time in simple yet impactful ways, perhaps assisting at a local senior center, warmly helping neighbors with small tasks, or simply offering heartfelt words of encouragement each day to someone who might need it. Actions accessible to anyone seeking greater purpose, community, and joy, particularly beyond 65, when intentional connections carry profound value. Naomi, quietly sipping tea later that evening, felt gently proud, knowing deeply that her quiet wisdom had inspired meaningful, practical change. She warmly resolved to continue intentionally mentoring others, gently sharing practical habits of gratitude, kindness, and humility, daily practices easily embraced by anyone wishing to live richly and meaningfully. Claire, too, settled quietly into her evening with a comforting certainty that simple, intentional actions, thoughtfully chosen, were indeed the seeds of extraordinary transformation, seeds available always, at any age, whenever we choose deliberately and consciously to plant them. And so, each woman, Melissa, Naomi, and Claire, closed the day thoughtfully yet hopefully, understanding profoundly now that every moment, every interaction, carried within it a gentle yet powerful invitation to create lives of genuine purpose, deep kindness, and authentic joy, one simple, intentional act at a time. As the gentle glow of dawn softly painted the sky with shades of amber and rose, Melissa stood quietly by her kitchen window, savoring the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee, a simple daily pleasure that now seemed richer, sweeter, and more meaningful since she had chosen to intentionally embrace each new day with gratitude and kindness. She watched thoughtfully as morning light slowly illuminated her garden, flowers gently opening their petals toward the warmth, and realized profoundly how much her own heart had opened through deliberate acts of humility, empathy, and appreciation. Inspired anew by the quiet wisdom Naomi had gently shared, Melissa now began each day purposefully, with a simple yet powerful practice anyone, particularly beyond 65, could easily adopt. Taking a few intentional minutes each morning to clearly ask herself, what simple act of kindness can I offer today? A practical habit that beautifully set the tone for richer interactions, deeper connections, and genuine fulfillment. Melissa warmly recalled her first intentional action, volunteering briefly at the local senior center, gently assisting residents with daily tasks, sharing genuine smiles, and listening thoughtfully to their stories. She vividly remembered one elderly gentleman named Harold, who at 87 had quietly confided in Melissa that her simple gesture of sitting with him, sincerely asking about his life, had profoundly brightened his day, a powerful reminder that genuine kindness often requires no grand effort, only sincere attention and thoughtful presence. Actices easily integrated by anyone wishing to lead a more purposeful, joyful life. Naomi, too, greeted the new morning with gentle intention, comfortably settled in her favorite chair, quietly reflecting on the meaningful transformations she had witnessed unfold in Melissa and Claire, profoundly encouraged by their courage, humility, and deliberate choices to embrace daily practices of empathy and gratitude. Naomi remembered fondly her late friend Grace, who at 75 had shared with her an incredibly practical daily habit. Each evening, Grace had warmly advised, "Write down just 3 moments from your day that you're genuinely grateful for, small, simple things, easily overlooked, yet deeply meaningful." Naomi had faithfully practiced Grace's simple gratitude exercise ever since, recognizing its immense practicality for anyone, especially those over 65, seeking deeper appreciation and joy in everyday life. Inspired to gently share this empowering habit, Naomi resolved to offer it warmly to Melissa and Claire, encouraging them and others to regularly practice intentional gratitude, knowing clearly from decades of life experience how profoundly simple acts of appreciation enriched both relationships and personal well-being. Claire, waking gently into the fresh morning herself, felt a quiet contentment in her heart, consciously recognizing the joy that deliberate daily acts of courage and kindness had quietly brought into her life. She warmly recalled the advice shared by her great-aunt Evelyn, who at 83 had gently taught her the power of writing short, heartfelt notes, practical gestures of appreciation, easily adopted by anyone wishing to deepen connections. Inspired by Evelyn's wisdom, Claire intentionally began each morning by writing just one sincere note of gratitude or encouragement, perhaps to a friend, neighbor, or family member, a practice beautifully accessible to anyone, particularly later in life when thoughtful communication carried deep emotional impact. As Claire carefully penned her note this morning, a warm message of appreciation to Melissa, she felt profoundly the simple yet extraordinary power of this practical action, recognizing that genuine transformation often begins precisely this way, through intentional acts of kindness, gratitude, and courage deliberately practiced each day. Melissa, receiving Claire's thoughtful note later that morning, felt a gentle warmth fill her heart, realizing clearly that life's richest treasures were indeed found in these quiet, practical exchanges of genuine kindness and authentic appreciation. Inspired deeply by Claire's simple act, Melissa thoughtfully decided to expand her own intentional practices further, warmly resolving to consciously acknowledge at least one overlooked person each day, perhaps thanking a postal worker sincerely, warmly greeting a neighbor who lived alone, or thoughtfully acknowledging the efforts of a caregiver. Achievable daily actions easily integrated by anyone, especially those seeking deeper meaning and purpose beyond 65. Naomi, quietly receiving Melissa's heartfelt message later that afternoon, felt profoundly encouraged, warmly reaffirming her own commitment to gently mentor others, sharing simple, practical practices of intentional gratitude and kindness, recognizing deeply their immense value for anyone desiring a richer, more joyful life. And as evening gently returned, softly blanketing the world in twilight's comforting hues, Melissa, Naomi, and Claire each found themselves thoughtfully reflecting once more on the beautifully simple truth they had rediscovered together, that every day, every moment, and every interaction offers each of us, regardless of age, a gentle yet powerful invitation to intentionally shape our lives through humility, empathy, gratitude, and deliberate kindness. They understood clearly now that living meaningfully and joyfully wasn't complicated or out of reach, but rather beautifully accessible through simple daily actions, achievable by anyone willing to choose consciously and purposefully, one small, intentional step at a time.